All of this has to do with outreach too. How much outreach he's doing, how much marketing he's doing, how many coaches is he getting in front of him, how many coaches know who he is, right? That's
Correct.
going to dictate how many offers. And offers for him are going to come in the next year. He's at 27. Between now and March and April of next year is where the bulk of his offers at the Division 1 level are going to come. Once you get past that timeline, it really starts trickling more into Division 2, not for all positions, but quarterback specifically, right? So this time for him right now of doing outreach is insanely critical. How to Get a College Football Scholarship, a series where we evaluate active high school football players, break down their game film, and at the end, share with them what level they have the best chance of earning a college football scholarship in, and most importantly, what they need to do to get to the next level. And joining me today is my co-host and our head coach here at Next Play, Brian Overton, who has over 15 years of Division 1 recruiting experience to help us break down this individual and their game film. So, Brian, who are we evaluating today? What's his position? Give me some context on this player.
Yeah, exciting player to talk about today. We got a 2027 quarterback, Cole Stevens. He's as you can see here, he's about 6'2", about 185 pounds. Really good young player. And as always, I'll give you some context, a little bit of context on his tape before we get started. His was really well set up. A lot of times we have a lot of quite a few adjustments and things like that we made. We only made a couple of tweaks, to a couple of things. But as you can see, I've got it paused here. But he had a nice information slide, which is, typically something that we have to tell guys to add on there. So that was a positive. Really got some good information on there with all his socials and contact information. Got some stats on there and things like that. So wasn't a lot of adjusting here. He had been coached up on it. You could tell pretty well. So we'll dig more into, kind of what we're looking for, in a young quarterback, some good things, some bad things, not bad things, but things he can work on, so to speak, to try to get better. And so I'm going to just let it run here and just kind of talk about him as we go here.
Yeah, let's do it.
So obviously you can see the length. I'm gonna try not to pause it as much here and just kind of let it run, but you can see the length here. Really good escapability on this first play, showing he can move around. One thing that you'll see come up here, and I say I'm not gonna run it, pause it and run it back, but I'm a coach, so I probably am.
You're good.
But you'll see on this play here, and I will try not to stop it as much, but his pocket presence will really start to show out here. See how this guy's running across his face here, and he still kept his eyes down the field to a really accurate ball. And you got to remember, guys, this is sophomore highlights now, so he's a young player. Okay, so his pocket presence will show up a lot. He's got a good mixture, as you see there. He's through the deep dig there. He's got a lot of, he's got plenty of deep balls that he throws accurately. His arm strength, I think, is really solid, for a kid his age as a sophomore, but he's really accurate down the field, And he did a good job here, as we talk about with all of the guys we work with and the guys we evaluate that are playing quarterback. Touchdowns are big, man. They want to know that, when receiver, it's hard to get open, man. I don't care if it's college ball and pro ball, whatever, high school ball. When you get guys open, you want to make sure that guy pulling the trigger can put it on them accurately, on time, with velocity, whatever the throw, is necessary to do that. And, for them to be able to put the ball in the end zone. And he does that a ton, in the beginning of the tape.
Yeah, I mean, one thing also I like to look for on quarterbacks too specifically is because, you and I talk about this quite a bit with quarterbacks is like, it's easy to see a lot of them, throwing the deep balls,
Yeah.
but there's something to say about like that second play where the ability to sit in the pocket, read the defense and throw a strike, right? Way different than just, 3-step drop fade, 3-step
Yeah.
drop fade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So better than I do as far as the order of these, but one of the things that I also, when we talk about arm strength, is there any like deep outs or anything like that where you see, maybe opposite hash to numbers type throw where it's not a lolly, where it's not an over the top, right? It's more of I got to throw this on a rope across
Yeah.
the field to hit an out route.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate that?
Yeah, he didn't have a ton of those, but yeah. So most of the time, when guys put those on there, when you get a big, we call those big boy throws because like those are evaluated all the way up. You'll see those evaluated at the NFL Combine here coming up. It really shows off the arm strength at any level, being able to throw the ball. For instance, if you're on the right hash, throwing it to the outside of the numbers on the left. But yeah, it's evaluated just like that. How accurately and how much zip can you get on the ball throwing that's a long ways to throw the ball, on a
Right.
line, with velocity. So it's really, what the velocity looks like. That's the closest he had to one right there, that last play. But,
Can
uh,
you
you
re-show
know,
that play?
yeah,
Let
I'm
me
going to
see.
go back to it. That was the last one, but,
Because I'm
that was
go
that
ahead.
was the closest. Yeah, that was the closest one he had. But, so I'll get to it here once the ad gets through. But,
Yeah.
yeah, you're definitely the coaching point on that is how quickly can you get the ball out there, and for to in layman's terms, when the guy's coming out of the break, like you said, it's got to have some velocity on it. When it's coming out of your hands. So they're on the left hash here. You can see he kind of flicked the ball out there, but it was on time. You know,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
it was on time and on target. And again, what goes into this too is their clash here when it comes to quarterbacks, right? You know what I mean? So his arm strength is probably above average, probably well above average for a sophomore right now. Just off that last throw right there. But even on some of the deep balls, he's comfortably throwing it 45, 50 in the air accurately on time. They're not, obviously moonshots and things like that. Um,
Right.
his pocket presence is good. He doesn't get really flustered back there, when he's got a lot going on in front of him in the pocket, which is very rare for a young quarterback, to be honest with you. Most of them either want to take off or get off their spot, quickly and turn it into an off schedule play. Whereas he'll kind of sit in there and deliver the ball, accurately and on time.
And I love that. That to me is the big thing, right? And then also escapability. But like there's very few quarterbacks that can sit in there with the rush, make a guy miss and actually keep your eyes down the field and throw a strike versus just running, right? Up, guy run,
Yeah,
guy run. You know what I mean? Um, so it's cool, Brian. If you want to, like, as far as the tape goes, definitely feel free to pause because I think what a lot of people want to see is like from your eyes, what are you looking at when watching these plays, right? Like what specifically, obviously we're talking through a lot of them, but as you're watching this, like what are you looking for from a coach's perspective, a college football recruiting director's perspective to say this kid is, you know, we'll go through his levels, but this kid is really good at this. This kid, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
what are we
So
looking for?
yeah, so in circling back, this matters every time, right? It does. It matters. The grad year matters, right? So you have to put in perspective what you're looking for in reference to what year they are in high school, obviously, and how much time they have left to develop. So that's critical, not just at quarterback, but any level. Okay.
Right.
I mean, any position. I'm sorry, any position, that is a huge factor. Okay. So if we're talking about Cole in particular here, because we're watching him as a 2027 quarterback, all right. The first thing is, and you can't you can't coach this, but it's a plus. The first thing that stood out to me before I ever turned the tape on was his size. Okay, he's already 6'3", about 185 pounds. You would have to say, even if he's on just a generic lifting and eating schedule, he's got a chance to be, upwards of 195, 200 pounds, in 2.5 years. And he may grow another inch or two. So you're talking about possibly having a 6'4", 6'5" quarterback at 200 plus pounds, which is, prototypical, in
Right.
college football. So that sticks out immediately. Okay, before I ever turned the tape on. And then, as I let it play here, like I said, his arm strength and his pocket presence stood out. I thought about it on the second play right there. That's the second play. And again, he's got a guy running across his face, you know what I mean? And people may not, look at that very much, or you're more concentrating on the throw. We're looking at everything, you know what I mean? So if you're evaluating this tape, especially if you're sitting there with the quarterback coach or the offensive coordinator or whoever it may be, When we're watching this, like that's a big time throw. The guy comes right across his face and almost hits him in the arm. And you can see with accuracy and the depth of that throw, that's an impressive throw, especially for a sophomore. Okay. Especially for a sophomore. Same thing here. Small window, good velocity, on target, catch and carry touchdown. You know what I mean? There's 4 or 5 guys standing around there. That's not your average, throw and catch in high school. It's just not, especially for a young player like that. So, and again, here's another deep ball, accurate, on time, catch and carry touchdown. So for a young quarterback like this, okay, he's already checked the size box. All right. We've seen him stand in there. See, there wasn't a lot of movement here. There's another good one. If you want to get in specifics, watch how he just kind of pats his feet here, but doesn't change the spot. See how he just kind of sat in there really calmly, waited for the guy, looked the safety off, and put a really accurate throw on this guy for a touchdown. Okay, now I know he doesn't have any pressure or anything like that, but young quarterbacks still often sometimes want to move around back there, even if they don't need to. He looks just very comfortable back there. Same thing here. He only moved up a couple of steps to avoid that rush. Just little stuff like that at quarterback at a young age like this really makes you want to like this kid. See how he just moved up in the pocket just a little bit and hit that thing on target for another catch and carry touchdown? There's just too many of these, you know what I mean, not to really like this kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What about, let's talk about divisions, right? What divisions does he have right now? Does he have the best chance of getting a scholarship in?
Yeah, so after going through his tape, and we actually went through it, a couple times, on this kid. I really feel comfortable right now as a 27 in his outreach. I got him in a 50-50 category on his outreach because of his class year and all the things we just talked about. I had him at 50-50 FCS G5 because of his size, his arm strength, his pocket presence, his escapability, and he's just got a lot of upside, I think, a lot of upside. And I feel really comfortable with him targeting his outreach there and targeting his camp schedule there as well. Because I think as a young player, I think he's gonna, in my personal opinion, I think next year, I think he'll get some momentum this year off of his tape. I really do. Will he get a bunch of offers and stuff? I'm not sure. Depends on how he's doing his outreach, and all that stuff matters, obviously, as we all too well know. And how targeted his camp schedule is. I think he can get some momentum, this off season. But I think once that junior tape really starts to come out and he has a good year like he did last year, I think he's really going to start getting some traction in like the FCS world heavily, next year as a 2027 off of his junior tape, and then being able to use that momentum and even maybe get a G5 or two to pop as well because of all those characteristics we just talked about. So we've got him pegged right now as a FCS G5 guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we're tough. We're tough on evaluations too. We don't just throw around Division One.
No.
If you've watched this series, which we post every single Saturday morning, we don't just throw it around, and so that's pretty legit from an evaluation standpoint. Obviously the next step from here is what does he need to do to get to the next level, right? Every kid's dream is to play FBS Power 4, right? And so right now he's grading somewhere between FCS and G5, which is awesome, by the way. But what does he need to do to get to the next level? He's got 2 years, but with quarterback and, again, all of this has to do with outreach too. How much outreach he's doing, how much marketing he's doing, how much is he getting, how many coaches is he getting in front of him? How many coaches know who he is, right? That's
Correct.
going to dictate how many offers, and offers for him are going to come in the next year. He's a 27. Between now and March and April of next year is where the bulk of his offers at the Division 1 level are going to come. Once you get past that timeline, it really starts trickling more into Division 2, not for all positions, but quarterback specifically, right? So this time for him right now of doing outreach is insanely critical. So I hope you're watching this, man, because you've got it in all quarterbacks and really all positions, but quarterback very specifically. Like this is it. Like this is the next 12 to 18 months that you've got. And then obviously if you perform well your senior year, but most Division I Power 4 FBS programs have that one quarterback or that's locked in already, right? So now is a really critical time. But Brian, what does he need to do to get to the next level, to grade a level up?
Yeah. And we talk about that a lot. Quarterbacks, like you just said, are recruited much differently than any other position. Those relationships are built over out a longer period of time. They really want to get to know you and, feel really good about that position and who they've got leading their team there. So you're absolutely right about that. I think some things that, can help him tremendously is one thing that I did, kind of notice a lot. He's got a little bit of a, kind of a 3/4, little under a 3/4 release point in his throwing motion. I really think he needs to work hard on that this all season, and it doesn't have to be exclusively over the top, but he needs to get more of a little over top release or at least over an ear slot release. And the reason for that is, I tell young quarterbacks all the time, especially ones that he's already has size, so he's not behind the 8 ball like some guys who can't control their height and they're 6 foot quarterbacks. Their throwing lanes become tough. In college ball, the linemen on both sides of the ball get much bigger. So what's in front of you, is condensed. Those throwing lanes in front of you like that get much smaller. So if your release point is much lower, you got a much higher chance of batted balls, or if you've got to get it over top of somebody, the ball sailing on you. You know what I mean? Specifically over the middle. So I think it's just overall throwing mechanics could be better, and he could really clean that up. And if he combined that with the arm talent and the other stuff, I think that could really set him off, to be honest with you, to the next level. If that became really clean and that arm slot got better. And that is if you get with the right guy that knows the quarterback position, that's what I tell the quarterbacks that we evaluate. I get with the guy that you trust, that knows the positions, that's got some history with some guys, and they can clean stuff like that up fairly quickly, at the quarterback spot. So between that and, I love his pocket presence as far as like his demeanor and his mindset back there. But his feet do get out of position, quite a bit, but he is a young player again. So just small stuff in the mechanics of standing in there and having his feet set. You even see on some of his deep balls, as he's waiting for the receiver to come open, he's kind of leaned back, you know what I mean? Like the quarterback meme, when they take the picture of him leaned back. I want him to, kind of get his hips under him, get both feet under him more, because, at the college level, one, you're going to have people banging around at your feet, from time to time. You want to be able to sustain that. But you also, those deep breaking routes often come open later down the field, and to be able to really push the ball down the field in the pocket you're going to have in college, you really have to have a good base underneath you. To push the ball down the field or across the field, like the throw we were talking about earlier. So I think a combination of the overall throwing mechanics and the bottom half, really getting those solidified, and cleaned up. I think if he does that, and matches it with, a lot of the stuff he's doing really well right now, I think that could really level up his evaluation, like say even at this time next year, if he has the same year or equivalent year that he had this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, big time upside, lots of opportunity, but can't emphasize enough the level of outreach that's needed, the camp uh, schedule being chosen properly, and what he does with that camp schedule, the relationships he builds with those coaches before the camp, as well as after the camp, is going to be highly critical. And if you want to learn more about how to do that, and you're here on YouTube, go to my channel. We have multiple videos on camps and how to choose camps, and building relationships with coaches before camps is going to be really critical. So make sure to do that. Brian, is there anything else you want to share before we wrap this up?
No, that's it, man. Like I think you covered it. Really good young player, man. I'm excited. I hope I get to see him, sometime next year, see his progress. But like he's got huge upside, man, at quarterback. But again, it's just I can't say this enough for the people listening. If you have a high school quarterback, as a coach or as a son or whatever the case may be, that it's just recruited much differently. So everything we're telling you here, I'm telling you from a long list of experience recruiting quarterbacks. Those relationships are built way out, so you have to start this process much earlier in getting in front of coaches and selling yourself and building relationships with them. I just can't stress that enough. You can have a ton of upside, but they just recruit it differently, and they really want to make sure they get it right. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, awesome. Well, appreciate you being here. As you know, we post these evaluations every single Saturday morning. And, this isn't how we do a professional evaluation. This is kind of an overview so you can get to know how it works and what it looks like. And so we also post a podcast every single Monday, wherever you listen to your podcast, but also here on YouTube. And on Wednesday, we post more of a training type video, which you can see here on YouTube as well. So if you're on YouTube and you want to get more videos just like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, or any other platform, leave us a review with what you would like for us to share with you. It allows us to provide you with more better content that's relevant to what you actually want. And that's what we want to do so that we can continue to do this. And if you'd like to see if your son meets the criteria for a professional evaluation just like this, I'll leave a link in the description below. So thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you on the next one.